Okay, so this is Don't Touch the Cat podcast, and this is a little bit of a different episode. On the last episode with Alan, we talked about a tiling group called Tyler's Community. It's a big group with a lot of engagement, and I made a few assumptions about something that I don't really know much about, really, other than being a member of it. So what we said during that conversation was we should speak to the guy that runs that group and record the conversation. So that guy is named Sam Hoffman, and he is here. He's agreed to do the podcast. So usually what I would do if I had someone like Sam on the podcast, I would ask them for their story, because that's what I'm looking for, really. I like people's stories. But what me and Sam have agreed to do is, because he's got more than one thing that he does, really. He's got two professional lives, at least. So what we've agreed to do is, this podcast will be a Tyler's Community special, where Sam's going to explain to everybody what it is and why it came about, and what the potential future plans for that group could be. So, hello, Sam.
Hello, you right? So there's a lot more to it than this, but obviously we'll cover Tyler's Community present and go back to how it started, I suppose.
Yeah, so like I've just said, we'll get you back on to, because I'd like to speak to you about just you, not the group, nothing else really, because I like people's stories. But for this one, if you can just start with, what is Tyler's Community and how did it come about? Start from, I don't know, wherever the inception of it came from, and take it from there, mate.
So there's loads of other Facebook groups, as you'll be aware of, not run properly, I would say, in the correct way, how they should be run, and mainly for the benefit of themselves. So financial, could be for gains for the self, or you find a lot of people with a big ego doing it for their own personal gain. So I was part of one of them for a while, as you know, and then there was a few decisions on there. Controlling sales, personal sales from admin teams. So we decided to leave that one. So that was me personally. I decided to leave that. We had a vote in like an admin chat, and it was basically selling an item and stopping anyone else that sells it. So then what they could do was delete comments and basically control, rather than what suits the members better, what suits them.
So you were part of another tiling group that wasn't Tyler's Community previously. So when you say sales, just explain what that means to the people listening. I know what you mean, but just explain what that means with regard to a Facebook group, because a lot of people might just think, oh, I'm in a Facebook group. But when you mention sales, obviously the Facebook group doesn't sell anything. A lot of people might know what you're referring to, but if you can just explain to people that might not be aware what you mean by that, and why the admin would need to have a meeting to discuss sales in a Facebook group.
So in a Facebook group, obviously if you've got 4,000 Tylers, they all need to buy stuff. So it's beneficial for a company to be involved with adverts or engaging with the Tylers to sell their materials, basically, which then brings in obviously like an advertisement place for them. So some groups will just let anyone do it, but then you can't control if they're a legitimate company. I've heard of stories before where someone's come on, offered an item for half the price of what it should be. Obviously someone's tried buying it and never seen the money or the goods.
Explain that. So some groups with not so strict admin would let anybody post anything, as in an advert for a product, when they've got kind of a captive audience, because it's a big tailored group, and the ones that you're talking about is tailored for tilers. There's probably a few other trades in there, but it's mainly tiling. So that example that you've just given, that is an example of allowing anybody to post anything, and What was it? A scam?
Yes, so there was a couple in there that was an item for sale a lot cheaper than what it should be, and I can't remember exactly how many sales it was, but they took a few £1,000. The company never existed.
Oh, fuck.
The item was never found, and then as an admin, really, you're responsible.
Yeah, it's a funny
In
thing.
my eyes.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because you're on Facebook, so it's Facebook, but it's a group, so it's like a website within Facebook. So that Facebook is kind of the internet, if you can treat it like that. So there's a lot of different sites on that particular site. So who's responsible there? The admins could turn around and say it's not our fault.
But then it's a closed group and they've let the people in.
Yeah. So
it's not like a public group.
So the way you think and the way I think, I would feel responsible as an admin for controlling that mini. It's not actually a mini group. I know the group you're referring to. It's a very large group. So yeah, I'd feel responsible. But what came of that?
Well, nothing, because obviously there's no way of tracing it back.
People just lost money.
People just lost money.
Wow.
And I believe it was a few £1,000.
Wow.
So that became the start of policing which companies should and shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. So you were an admin of this group at the time. How many of you was there?
I believe there was about 12,000. Might have been 10,000.
Sorry, how many admins?
Members. Admin 5, I believe it was.
Yeah. So these groups get really big, and then it's difficult to control or police them.
If you start it from the start, you can be quite strict who you let in and who you don't let in. So you might see numbers of other groups might be 18,000, but only 200 posts a month.
Yeah, engagement's low.
With Tyler's community, you've got 4,000 members. We can see the insights, and there's on average 3,800 per month active. So
yeah,
the next month might be 3,900. Not everyone logs into Facebook every month.
Yeah.
Some people come on just when they need something.
Yeah, I've got a little group, as you know, and you get so many requests from people. I'm similar to you, I'm quite strict. You need to answer these questions, and if it's not obvious that you're in the trade, then I won't let you in. But you get so many requests from people, and the only information you can see is that they're in 3,000 other groups or something crazy. So it's obvious what they do. They just join a load of groups and maybe spam the groups every now and again. So yeah, being strict, that's something that you do now.
We've done it on our own group since day one.
Yeah.
So
and what you experienced in the other groups allowed you to say, right, we can avoid that because I've experienced X, Y, and Z previously.
And there's also a lot of people that aren't tilers in the other groups. So you'd find a lot of DIYers in there. If you used to look at who's been removed from the group, it's probably quite a high number as well.
Yeah.
So we don't have automatically approve. Everyone is checked. Even down to going onto their own profile and finding information, which sounds like a bit stalkers, but...
Well, no, it's right, isn't it? Because if you've asked some questions, as in, you've made out from the outset that your group is for tilers or people in the trade, but mainly
people involved in tiling.
Yeah, mainly tilers. And they answer some questions, it's really easy to just click on their profile to say, is this person actually being honest? And it's good to be strict, because then you've only got you're being honest with everybody else that is a member, and you've only got members who you're actually looking to communicate with.
There's probably a clue on every profile, same as yourself. You'd find a link to, say, tiling somewhere.
Yeah, and it's not even that. I mean, sometimes I ask for, are you in the trade? I mean, they don't have to be in the trade. They might work in a tile shop or a building supplies shop or something, and it's quite easy to find that information out. You can usually just look at LinkedIn, and they might be there with a job description, or if they are a tiler, it's very easy to just Google them, and company's house will show up.
So we probably get 30 a day sometimes. Over the last month or so, it's gone up a lot. Wow. So we can't go into that extreme of check-in. You look at mutual friends, you click onto their profile and see if you can see any photos. If we
Yeah.
can't see anything, we'll decline with a feedback, asking for proof
Yeah.
of being involved in tiling sort of thing.
Yeah. So you were sorry, you were talking about the other group, and what you were kind of telling us the history of what led to Tyler's community being created, and we went off on a tangent about being strict and allowing people in.
Yeah, so on that group, they were chasing numbers, which is, in my opinion, a way of getting more traction by companies because they see a large number, they think it's a good activity.
Yeah.
There was a trusted company on there, and it was made clear that they wasn't wanted anymore unless they paid a fee.
Yeah, so this is something we haven't talked. So there was actually a fee for the right to advertise within the group.
So I never see the fee. Obviously, I didn't get to see all that side of things, but I was made aware of it. It'd always been before that freebies were given back to the members, I believe.
Right.
So it moved quite quickly into obviously a financial incentive.
Yeah. You can see how it can get there when it gets larger. What I would have to do is get some people from that group on to talk, to give their side, and explain exactly how that works. So you were an admin, but you weren't actually. Were you an admin or what do they call it?
A moderator, it might have been.
Yeah, so you weren't the guy running the page. You were just helping to moderate.
Yeah, that's it.
And then all these things come to light. Some of them you knew about and some of them you didn't.
Yeah, so obviously I never got to see everything. Only what I could see in the chat between us and what you could see on the page. There was a variety of different people. You'll probably know them. That approach things in different ways. Probably not the right way. So there was a few disagreements, but obviously as a moderator, there's nothing really you can do about it.
Yeah, so they were advising this is how we're going to run the group. And to be honest, groups do get big and they get important. And I know from I worked in the industry, but not as a tiler, that was and it probably still is, an important group for the industry that people look at because it was large. But I think, and I'm sure you'll explain in a minute, what you've created when you moved away from it and off the back of that and with the experience and the learnings that you took from it, what you've created is actually a more important group that's run in a better way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you learn experience from there, same as anything. You see the good, you see the bad, and then it almost comes to a point where I personally looked at it and thought, it's only me doing anything here.
Well, I can comment on it because I used to follow it quite closely. So it was part of my job at the time. So I was a buyer in the industry at the time. And we used to have lots of meetings to say, are these groups actually important? Do they actually represent what's going on with tilers? Because obviously we were selling stuff to you as well. We wanted to know, try and keep our finger on the pulse. What do traders want and what are they talking about? So I knew, I mentioned this to Alan in the previous podcast, I knew your name and I knew people's names and I knew who was active and who wasn't, to the point where, at the time, this is, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago now, it wasn't even such a big group at the time. It was big, but it's much bigger now. I produced a report for my boss and it was basically a breakdown. Is this group worth listening to? Because it was like, there's this many members. And the answer was, ultimately, no. At the time. Because there was, I can't remember the numbers, maybe 7,000 members at the time.
I think it was about 7,000.
Yeah.
Going back to it, a few of, still good friends with them, in touch with them people. They were admin before. And they went to start their own group.
Yeah.
That's a good group. It is a good group.
Yeah.
Tile Gurus.
Yeah, so they approach it from a different angle. So they're like they want the best of the best tilers, and it's good. It's a different. It's fine to have more groups. It's great. So theirs is slightly different, where they are like a group of experts who share advice and knowledge with each other. So that is a good group.
Yeah, no. So they was the admin on the first page to start with.
Right.
They left
Yeah.
just for quality rather than quantity.
Yeah.
So there was them fallings out before, accusations of money being taken and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's a tricky one when money is involved, because I've said it before, and I'll always say this: if somebody's doing some work, as in they're the admin of a group, or it could be any kind of work, but in relation to forums and groups, if they're creating something that people like to digest and follow, and it just so happens that they spend a lot of time on it, if that time needs compensating to at some point, as in, look, there's brands who are willing to pay because we're such a big group and they deem us important enough to advertise in our group, what we're going to do is we're going to charge them, and what that will do, it allow us to make the group better. I have absolutely no problems with people doing that, because it's their time. They're creating something and curating something that people enjoy digesting. And actually, if they're giving the members benefits as well, as in they're saying to these people that want to advertise, it's great you can advertise, but this is what it's going to cost, and what you're going to do for the members. It gets a bit tricky when even the admins can't admit to each other what kind of money is being taken and who benefits the most and what they even charge people. And that goes for, I'm not talking about any specific group there, that goes for any group in any forum. I'm a member of lots of different groups and lots of forums online, not specifically tiling either. And it gets tricky when groups get big, because you're able to use the size of the group as clout to get payment for advertising, because it's a great way to advertise. You've got a captive audience who are interested in a specific product or a specific industry. So it's just a tricky one. The only way I could ever give an opinion on it, and I would have to get the guys on. We won't mention any names because it's not really fair, because I would get them on and say, listen, you give me your story. You've just mentioned that the original admins moved to Tile Gurus anyway, and they definitely don't do that. They're all about tiling and being the best.
Yeah, you've got people that have a passion for stuff, and then you get some people that start like that. Then they see that there could be a potential incentive, because I get approaches all the time in my messenger inbox. I won't name the company, but we done an underfloor heating guide on the page recently. Simon Whittaker from Amber, underfloor heating. So he gave up his time completely free to do all of that, write a guide, help the members out.
Yeah.
On the back of that, another company that's never engaged on the page are asking me how much is it for exclusivity on the page. So that's something I refused.
So what you're saying, Sam, you don't make any money from Tyler's community?
Nothing at all. I mean, there's opportunities to, and there's been loads of opportunities to, but as it stands at the moment, nothing. Maybe one day in the future, it'll come to a point where you can't put no more time in unless you're compensated. I mean,
yeah, it's like I just said, it's not even about making money. It's not like, oh, I'm going to be rich. It's about ensuring that the thing that is developed into something else completely, that it used to be a fun, and I'm sure you would carry on doing it regardless, but when it gets big and you start introducing new features to something, and it becomes more than just an online forum, I've got no issues, because it needs to pay for itself. To keep improving on it and to keep offering people whatever benefits it offers them, and even if that benefit is just they like to log in and read it, to keep the quality there, there's time for one. People's time isn't cheap, and you can't just do it all in your own time, especially when it becomes something more. I'm sure we'll get to it, but so where we were, you were basically explaining how you ended up leaving the other group. So
Yeah, that was purely based on that. Um, it might have started as a benefit for the members, but the way it was going certainly wasn't heading that way. And it was more heading towards financial, which is, it's, as we say, I think as long as it doesn't affect the page, then I don't see why his time shouldn't be compensated. I mean, how many hours you can put in a week? Are you making money? You'd be reimbursing your hours that you spent. So that's always a tricky one. There's lots of options for financials in the group,
yeah,
but at the moment they're not needed. In
it's
the future,
tricky.
maybe if you brought in more features,
It depends
some
how
of it
you
might be
approach it,
needed.
right? So the group isn't just the admins. The group, some of the groups that just let anybody in, then maybe that's just the admins, and they're trying to make it as big as possible and make some money. I know somebody who he made a group about the TV show The Office, and actually he made it huge. So obviously that group isn't really about a community. It is, because a lot of people that like The Office, but he wanted to make it as big as possible and then make some money from it, basically, which I think is a little bit dangerous because it can easily fall apart. But if you so you left that group, the other group that you're a member of, and if you just explain that from the outset what your plans were for Tyler's community, you've already explained that it's quite strict as to who it lets in. But if you just explain what you wanted to be different about it.
So on the last group, you had a lot of people that was just starting, and they would get abused as though they should know these questions. So we had a look around. The other group alternative was the gurus, which they wanted to be obviously the more well-established Tylers.
Yeah.
So there was a group in between the middle of them both, for beginners all the way up to experts and experienced, and assisting obviously the people that were learning, so they could actually learn without getting abused.
Yeah. So I think most people listening will know what you're talking about, but you see it quite a lot. It's one of my pet peeves, to be honest. Somebody will, and it might not even be a new person, but let's say it's a new, inexperienced Tyler will post something to say this recently completed my first wet room or whatever. And a lot of the time, and it doesn't happen in Tyler's community, it creeps in sometimes, but they tend to get slapped down, which is really good. That it says a lot for the community. But in previous groups, I really hate it. You get people, the laughing emoji, laughing, or literally taking the piss, saying that looks shit. Da, da, da. And I've always been of the opinion, like, you can give feedback. Obviously, if something's bad, it's bad. There's no getting away from it. It looks bad. It's been poorly done. But if you've got some feedback for that person, if you're so experienced and so much better than this person at doing what they've just done, why would you post something, a public comment that says that is shit? Because it's just mean. you could send that person a message to say, I saw your post. I've got 20 years experience and I can give you some pointers if you want some pointers for your next one. So I think you would.
You do get that as well. So you get some members that have dropped them a message and said, I'm in your area. I can't price you into the job, but come out and look how we do it. And we'll show you some more. Because not everything can be shown by text or explained by text. It's quite hard.
Yeah.
So there's still a place for demo days for education and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But helping the people that's just starting constructively is the way forward, I think.
Yeah. Not necessarily just starting. I mean, we spoke to Alan last week, who's got shitloads of experience, and I've seen him on the group before asking for advice. It's like nobody knows everything.
No, definitely not. There's a lot of things that, if you look at tiling, it starts, and this is no disrespect to a lot of the courses, but I'd say 90% of the tilers coming through courses. You could have a quick look yourself at tiling courses available. They're offering the world within 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and they're tiling with 15 by 15 tiles, which
Yeah.
is irrelevant in today's tiling, really.
Yeah.
So some people have invested all their redundancy money, stuff like that, into making this work. Obviously, they're coming in a lot less than what they think they are.
Yeah.
They're not as skilled as what they thought they'd be. So they're left in... There is no further education, really.
Yeah. So yeah, the group is a good place to learn from other tilers. But what I've noticed is, and you can tell me about this, it's a different group, and it's happening. And this is the reason, really, why we're talking about tilers community only for this particular chat. Very recently, you've made it more of an official thing for brands to be engaged, really engaged in the group.
So I think that's a lot of it from the... That's why it's called the tilers community. It's not just for gurus or for talking. It's a community from learning, assisting each other. You see a couple on the page from the mental health.
Yeah.
Do a lot with them as well.
Yeah.
So there's people from all different backgrounds and purposes, not just tiling.
Yeah. So you started it knowing what you'd seen before and what you wanted it to be, which is basically, it's open to people who are tilers, basically. But you wanted it to be not just for experts, but also not just for everybody. So that's what you started out as. But what we've touched on just is that I believe, in my opinion, it's becoming something else.
I think a lot of companies on other pages have always held back if there's toxic.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of negative comments, companies will look from the outside and think there's a good chance that can get targeted at us. So a lot of them just stay quiet.
Yeah.
On our page, obviously, there's a few that are constantly engaging, and a lot that want to engage. But I'd say a lot of companies are old-fashioned. They're not quite sure on social media, and they don't sort of engage.
Yeah.
Because they've been instructed not to, or they don't know how to.
Yeah. So the way I see it, so my experience in the industry is retail. So a lot of shops will engage with brands in this way, and it's not that new. The brands, it won't be particularly new to a lot of the manufacturers and brands that are getting involved in the group at the moment. So what they'll do is that they'll get engaged with retailers, but it's obviously for ultimately they want to sell more product, and there'll be some kind of incentive to the retailer, as in better prices or some kind of rebate or something. And what they'll offer in return is training within the stores, or they'll come and train your store staff, and they'll offer training days for tilers. And in my experience, I might be wrong, and other people might have different experience, they've never really been extremely engaging. The trade days and things like that happen in shops, they're great because they make everybody aware, and you can go to them if you want to, but they're never actually booming, if you know what I mean. You might get 10, 20 people turn up if you're lucky, but what the Talos community group's able to do is engage in a similar way, but you've actually got thousands of people who are actual traders. The vast majority of them, because of the strict entry policy, they are actually traders who want to learn. So brands must be extremely interested, brands, manufacturers and retailers must be extremely interested in engaging in the group.
There's a lot of members there. I think that's why a lot of them hold back as well, companies. Like you say, a demo day or a trade day. Once the tiles are gone, that's it. It's done.
Yeah.
On the page, when they comment, it's there. So someone might come back to that in 2 weeks and reply to it.
Yeah.
Or if someone disagrees with them, on a demo day, it's done when they've gone.
Yeah.
online it's not. So you have to obviously approach it carefully. But I think for companies, it's beneficial.
Yeah.
An advert, they could spend £1,000 on an advert.
Yeah.
A Tyler will see it, flip past it.
Yeah.
A Tyler would prefer someone to engage with them, educate them, and let them know
Yeah.
about products. So it's a continuous advert, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Well, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. That's what the manufacturers and the retailers want. It's a fantastic advert to get into a group that's extremely engaged. But what they're offering, if they're offering things in return, and we mentioned it on the previous podcast, if they're offering things in return like good deals and ultimately training and knowledge, then I've got no issues whatsoever if they want to engage. And the way that you do it, they actually don't really, it doesn't really cost them that much money to do. If they were to do a trade day anywhere in the country, even just to send a couple of reps to a shop for one day, that's quite a big cost. But if they want to do a trade day where they actually have to have a stand at some kind of show, it costs a fortune. And you're not necessarily going to get the same kind of engagement and the same kind of audience as you can get in a group like yours, nearly for free. Nearly. It might cost them a little bit of time, but they're not paying for it, as far as I know.
But then if you put a tile rep on the page, you don't be on the page, on the phone, answering, say, 15 calls a day.
Yeah.
For the same question.
Yeah.
Put that online once and it's there.
Yeah.
So if somebody asks, say for example, Ultra a question about specification, once they answer, everyone can see that answer.
Yeah.
So there's no need to answer 20 times next week about that same question.
Yeah. And
on the flip side, if there is a problem with a product, then someone might post it on there.
Yeah.
And then that's where I think the companies, some of them don't like it because they like to keep that behind closed doors.
Yeah. You don't see that much of it, to be honest. In my experience, a lot of the time, especially in that group, they're very understanding. They understand, like, shit happens. So they won't necessarily throw a brand under the bus. It's very rare it happens. Very rare. And to be honest, the only time I see anybody doing it is when they can't get any answers. Like, they don't immediately go to social media and say, oh, something's gone wrong. They'll only really go to social media when they're not getting very good customer service. So the initial not being happy with the product, I don't think a lot of tilers would throw a company under the bus like that. I think they try every avenue first, and the only time they'd come to you, or like they get to the end of the tether and post something on a public social media page, is when they can't get answers. So it's only about customer service. And I think a lot of the time you even see there's been a problem. The companies understood that there was a problem, understood that it wasn't necessarily the tiler's fault and dealt with it. And actually that brings a positive post to the group or to social media, which is great. So I don't know. I'm not if people don't know, I deal with, I'm the Perflex distributor for the UK, so which is an epoxy grout. I've got no issues with people posting anything on social media, and they can either discuss it with me in private if they want to, or if they want to post it on social media so everybody can read the discussion that we have, that's fine. And I might be wrong, and the product might have done something wrong or whatever, but it's fine to have that discussion, because if the outcome of it is the supplier was engaged and he's helped me out, that's just positive. Even though the start of the post, or the initial thing that got the post going, was a negative about you or your product, if you engage and give the good customer service in a public forum, it only ever comes out positive.
I think that's the best way. I think some of the companies, they won't post on and they won't engage on their group or on social media at all. But If they just answer the question, dealt with the person, show that they're trying to work out a resolution to it, I think that goes down better.
Yeah, my preference would be that doesn't happen in public. But
Of course, yeah.
But if somebody does
I
do
don't
it
like
in public, and the only time I've ever seen it, like I say, is when they've come to the end of the patience. But if it does happen in public, that's fine. I'd happily as a supplier, I would happily chat with that person in public if they've got questions that they want to raise in public. Because if I've done something wrong, or Perflex has done something wrong, or the company I work for, whoever it may be, has done something wrong, I don't mind admitting it. Because you're like, okay, we did something wrong, let's fix it. Obviously, I'd prefer it if it wasn't public, but I don't understand why a brand would be... I don't know whether it's scared or... I don't know what it is. I don't know what the correct word for it is. It could be scared. They don't want it all out there and like all the dirty laundry out and on social media. But I don't know. If I saw a brand engaging with someone who's got a problem, I'd be like, they're a good brand.
Yeah, so there's one yesterday. I believe it was yesterday or the day before. He tried getting hold of the rep, couldn't get hold of the rep. Came on the page, and he said he'd been trying to get hold of the rep. No luck getting the part number for the cutter. So straight away I saw it. Tagged the commercial director who's on the page. It's a nationwide company. Well, I say it, Ruby. The very next day he had one on his door, the part. So that's like a commercial director that's done that.
Yeah.
Seen that, done that, and sorted it out. So maybe if the rep had done his job away from the page, we wouldn't have even seen that post.
Yeah. Well,
I would say to companies that are not involved, that shows that Ruby will go out their way to sort problem to the highest level.
I think a lot of companies will. And if that guy had an issue with a rep, you don't know what that issue is, so it's not really fair to go on social media and say, I don't know, whatever the issue was. It could have been a genuine thing that the rep was struggling with for whatever reason. But what they've shown is that, all right, we acknowledge that you've had an issue. We're glad this group exists because we wouldn't have known otherwise. They've liaised through yourself. You've probably spoken to the Tyler in question and said, look, Ruby wouldn't do that. Let me speak to whoever it is. And he's dealt with it. And that's why the group's a good thing, because if your group didn't exist, it would be one of the other groups. And it's arguable whether anybody would even help him out on the group. But if none of the groups existed, then that guy's literally on his own. And he doesn't get a resolution.
In some of the other pages, you get a comment like that, and then all of a sudden you get... Because it is like a toxic environment, almost like a battle of who's the best, or who's the...
It's just it's the internet.
Funniest.
Trolling. It's just the internet. It's what you get, and then all the negative comes out first, which is... That's why I do like Tyler's Communities group, because it doesn't really show itself. And a lot of other places on the internet, the negativity rises to the top.
You get that post about a missing part in another group, all of a sudden you've got 50 people bringing up problems from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's where I think companies don't want to get involved.
Yeah.
Because they've seen too much of other groups.
Yeah.
And not what we like.
Yeah.
It's
a
you
bit
could say
unfair.
the rep had a good excuse. He might have forgotten about it, forgot to write it down. There's always two sides to a story.
Yeah, exactly.
But the companies that we do try to keep engaged, that we almost say they're held accountable by us. Because obviously, if they don't and they continuously fall short, the members won't use them, and they will get called out on social media.
Yeah.
And that's the only time you really see on a group companies getting called out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the only time I've ever seen it. Poor customer service. The quality of things that's one thing, if a Tyler's had an issue. Most Tylers, and I deal with a lot of them, I speak to Tylers every single day, they're quite understanding. They understand because they deal with shit all the time. They see things go wrong all the time. So they won't just complain for no reason.
You get some that everyone has a bad day. As I say, we have a bad day. Go to work, you're having a bad day already. Get your box of tiles out, get your bag of adhesive or something. It's got a few lumps. Could have just been stored badly by yourself. You know what it's like. You've got a problem. Everything else seems to become a bigger problem. And a lot of people, not everyone, but some people look for someone else to blame. It's not everyone will take it on their own shoulder and say, that's my fault, that's my mess up.
Yeah.
That's the only downside you get. Some people try and do that. Or if there is a problem, they're not so good at getting over a problem.
Yeah.
So if there's an issue, we've had it before, tiles haven't turned up on time. Or they've only bought half of them to courier. So we think, make a call, the batch number the same, definitely. And they are, we'll just get by. We'll get over it for now. It's not ideal, but you sort of work around it.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I'm sure the construction industry in general, but tilers, because that's what we both know, they deal with shit constantly. They run into issues all the time. And a lot of the tilers who I speak to, they just kind of, it's part of the job. You're going to have a different kind of problem every single day. It's never easy. And if you're not the type of person that can think on your feet and, oh shit, I can't do this, so I'll do this instead, I don't really think you should be in that kind of job. If you need something to be more consistent, you shouldn't be doing a job where you're going to have the surprises thrown at you constantly.
Yeah, I think our situation is what I'd say is like a live scenario. There is an endless amount of possibilities. We can go take a tile off a wall, plastered wall behind it. We could take a tile off the wall and all of a sudden the plaster walls come off, the stud works come off, the stud work's rotten, needs replacing, and all of a sudden you've got an easy bath to retile to a place that some tilers wouldn't even know what to do. They know how to tile, that is it. So straight away you get in, and I've seen it and witnessed it. I've had people in my inbox messaging me for advice and stuff, and they've never had to put a bit of stud work in before, and all of a sudden they've done a job, got the job done, replaced the stud work just from online, and people helping them. Otherwise they've got to explain to this customer they don't know what's happened, they don't know how to get over it, they need to get it fixed and they'll come back. But that doesn't look good for them, or it's not good for the customer either.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a good... So you take a lot of questions like that all the time. I know this. So where we got to was that what you wanted that group to be, which I think it is. It's there for everybody to be a community and help each other out, basically, and not take the piss out of each other. And it's for all levels of experience. But what I think it's turned into, which I don't think you may have, you may not have envisaged what it actually is now. And I know this because I send you messages and I'm not even a tiler, so you must get a shitload of messages. You deal with lots and lots of things, as in one that you've just given an example of, people asking for advice, which is great because you'll help them out. There's nothing in it for you, but I think from your own experience, you're doing that because you didn't get that, I would imagine, and you just want to help people out. But can you just explain now what it's developed into, and talk about your other admins that you've got on this group as well and how they help?
So at first, we've got obviously Adrian O'Clements, know him from online, very good, reputable tiler, doesn't specialise in just one field, and he's got a good knowledge. But even though he's got a good knowledge, he still goes to courses, demo days, learns as much as he can and keeps on learning. So we've got him as one of the admin. When I first started up, I set up with a couple of the boys that I was working with, because I thought it's a brand new group. There was a lot of controversy. Who's going to come here? Who's not going to come here? Onto the page.
Yeah.
So I thought if I set it up with my cousin and one of the boys that was working with us, then we've got 3 different admin then. And it was purely based on the fact there's 3 of us in there.
Yeah.
So we had that. We never, I don't know how you say it. Don't even admin in terms of other pages where they police and you'll get some of them argue with members,
Yeah.
swear at members, block them, ban them, and stuff like that. A typical one is you're booted. A comment that most people can relate to.
Yeah, I've had it a couple of times.
Yeah. I've had the boot and the block. But when it was first and I left the page, I was thinking, well, that's that. It's quite enjoyable because you see people, and to now, I'll tell you who's a good example, is Ken Watson. So he was working in a car sales room, came on to Tyler's community, just done a course, I believe it was, and some of the jobs he's doing now, you would never think he's only been Tyler in a year. He still
Really?
inboxes me a lot.
I know his name. I didn't know he'd only been Tyler in a year.
Yeah, about a year.
Wow.
But he's always trying to. And some people. So we've got Adrian as an admin, and he helps a lot on the page. I know he gets a few messages.
Yeah.
But I get a lot of messages because people were a bit concerned about asking such a basic question on the page.
Yeah.
Probably because of what they've seen on other groups. But I've always said to them, post it on there. The question is not too simple. Because from their point of view, they're stressing about it.
Yeah.
So it's costing them time, money, stress. So why not just ask a question? It might be a simple question to some, but there's also probably another 10 people that are too shy to ask it.
Yeah. Simple questions or stupid questions, which they might be called stupid questions. And it's a famous thing that there is no such thing as a stupid question. So you might ask that question that you think, this is a really basic, stupid question. But actually, if you're brave enough to ask it, I can guarantee you there'll be a lot of people with a lot of experience who will be looking for the answers, thinking, "Oh, I'm glad somebody's asked that question because I've always wanted to ask that myself but didn't dare." And that goes for every walk of life, not just a tiling group.
No, definitely. We used to get it early on when we first started the page, and it was people, why we got these learners in here? These people aren't tilers. I say, no, not at the moment.
Yeah.
But there will be. And there was a lot of negativity about that. A lot of people didn't like it. There was adamant that it should only be experienced tilers. But how do you become an experienced tiler with no experience?
Yeah.
And in our trade, and a lot of the learners will ask and tell the same things. Where do you go for more experience?
Yeah.
You've come off the back of a 2-week course. This has to work for you now. Let's go to find a story that made it really highlight to me. So somebody messaged me, seeing what I was doing on the original page. He'd been absolutely abused on the existing page for asking simple questions. When I spoke to him, I said to him, look, it's going to be easier to explain over the phone when you're there rather than through message. Because, as you know, some things you can't just get across in message.
Yeah.
You can, but it's probably about 50 messages. When I spoke to him on the phone, he'd been made redundant. So he'd spent the last of his money getting a van, tools, and doing this course. And if I'm honest, he come out of this course, he would have been better serving his time with a tiler. Well, say 3 months as an apprentice. And he was quite broke up about it and said to me, basically put it sounded like he was going to cry, to be honest. He said to me, look, this has to work, otherwise I lose everything I've got. He was in his mid-40s, so it's not like he's young enough to sort of lose a house and go again. So obviously this was like a make or break for him. And that's when I realised how important it was to educate people that need it.
Yeah.
It's not just answering a silly question, as someone put it. It's actually someone's livelihood, which affects their wife, their kids, their own mental health,
Yeah.
everything like that. So there's more to it than just helping someone with a question or training.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough training out there.
No, and that's why I always say that that group, it's become more than a group. Like you just say, you don't just police a group. If I use mine as an example, my group, that I let some people in, I don't let some people in. I stop people from posting spam. I admin the group. It's just admin.
Yeah.
I put some how-to guides on there. It's a place to save information, basically, and for people to give each other advice on how they use a specific product. But your group, it's definitely, I wouldn't even know what to call it because it's still on Facebook and it's still a group and it still has admins. But what you're offering to people, like that guy you've just shown, is somewhere where if your group didn't exist, he would be struggling big time because he would probably be putting adverts out in local newspaper. I don't know, local
adverts or Facebook.
Local
groups.
Facebook pages saying, "Are there any Tylers out there who want an apprentice? I've just got my own van." Blah blah blah, and his audience for that is tiny. Whereas
and not only that, a lot of these people, because every personality is different, so he was quite realistic at where he was. He knew he was well out of his depth on a basic bathroom, which he shouldn't be after what he's been promised.
Yeah.
But there's also the other side of things, which we could probably touch on later about people doing bad jobs. But not everyone that does a bad job knows they're doing a bad job.
Yeah.
It could be that's all they know. And they're not intentionally doing a bad job. So you could get the flip side. He'd go out, mess a job up in a little village, and that's his reputation gone before he started.
Yeah.
So there's more to it than just helping that individual and his livelihood. If you go across the whole of the tilers, it's an industry. If you had your floor tiled, someone didn't prepare the anodride screed properly, tiles popped up off the anodride screed. As far as you're concerned, you had a bad experience with tiles on an anodride screed. You don't want to go near them again.
Yeah.
So it's a lot like that. It's protecting the industry. If there's not enough tilers out there,
Yeah.
you see the plastic panels coming into bathrooms
Yeah.
because carpenters or plumbers can fit them.
Yeah.
So that's why I think education's key, and there's not enough support out there.
Yeah.
So if you've done a course that tells you you're a tiler, but you haven't actually got the experience to be a tiler, where do you go to learn to be a tiler again?
Yeah.
If you've already paid to do it.
And you put a post on Facebook and the first comment is, "You don't know what you're doing." And it just puts people off putting any kind of post on a social media, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. And I think from very early days, there's a lot of controversy on the group because I made it clear there is going to be beginners in here. There is going to be people that have just passed courses in here.
Yeah.
I actually messaged a load of courses, people that supply courses for tiling, and I said to them, look, if your pupils need further education, they need help, they need support, look, join this group and we'll help them. A couple of them said they don't need help after they've come from here. Realistically, I wanted to say to them they do because I've seen the courses you supply, and I'll be honest, they're rubbish.
Well,
I didn't want to say that, put their back up,
They
because I wanted
100% do,
people to
because
come in.
even if the course was good, as in like the technicals of tiling, and you come out of that course as like really understanding the basics and the fundamentals of that industry, I think you still need to go and be an apprentice, no matter how good you are at tiling, because you need to know things away from the technical side, like how do I actually get customers? How
I think that's another thing
how
as
do I
well.
run a business?
They don't teach you how to, and this goes for tilers in the group, loads of groups, loads of tilers. You'll see experienced tilers that have been doing it for 20 years, and some members get a bit funny about pricing posts.
Yeah.
But what you've got to remember is some of these tilers might have spent forever on site. They've never had to actually self-level a floor.
Yeah.
They've never, and this is like a 20-year experienced tiler. He's never had to do anything other than bathrooms. So he doesn't know about anodride screeds, or he doesn't know about certain plasters, and he can't tile onto lime, stuff like that. So even myself, I've learned stuff off the group. I think everyone can learn something And if it's not just learning, there's more than one way to approach a job. So have I been approaching a job in a way that's quite long-winded and more expensive because I'm using materials that actually are overspec'd. So then obviously you've got tilers, they've been told do this, do this, do this. They could well be spending £600-700 on materials for a big job that they don't need.
Yeah.
So in turn, they could be losing the job because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Alternatively, they could be making that £700 more in their own pocket.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can learn how to tile, but there's experience is the important thing. All those other things, other than actually sticking a tile to a wall, there's a lot more to it. And that's what I mean. The group offers all that.
There's support for everyone. Luckily, Facebook put on a anonymous post. So now you can post anonymously. Nobody knows who you are. And I know, and this will highlight how everyone needs further education, further support. I've seen some members use that function to ask a question that have actually in the past on other groups said, this is a stupid question. But yet they'll go onto the page and they need help at sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think it's just making everyone aware that everyone needs support at some point. I mean, I didn't get to where I am without hitting problems. I remember stressing out, thinking, how do I get over this? I don't know how to get over this. I've never been shown. There was no Facebook, so it was pretty much work it out as you go. Just because you got over something doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
So then working with other tilers on site, you see how they do it and you think, well, I've been doing it this way all the time.
Yeah.
So then it was education through there. If you work alone as a tiler, you don't get that support. So the only way really of getting support is in a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Social media.
It's that kind of job, isn't it? Like, there might be a few that work in pairs or in gangs, but I think the vast majority have been on their own for however long. They've always been the boss. It's really difficult to learn, and it's also really difficult to admit that you don't know something. And I think a lot of the time the knee-jerk reaction, rather than saying, I don't know, the knee-jerk reaction is to protect yourself and just become negative and start slagging things off or slagging people off, when the reality is it's probably just a defense mechanism because you actually don't know, and it's not your fault you don't know, because what's the way for people to learn? And you're in this industry, there isn't really anything other than that early college and then experience. And if your only experience is like what you've just said, the work that you can get in your area, are you supposed to learn things? And that's why I keep coming back. That's why the group, I think, is different for that reason. What you offer, you personally, but the other admins, they take a shitload of questions. But you only have to scroll through the group, and there's loads of people who are willing to help other people. It's very, very accommodating. There's very few naysayers or trolls. If you do get that, how do you deal with it? I think, to be honest, the group kind of deals with it itself, doesn't it? If somebody starts taking the piss.
Yeah, I mean...
Taking the piss is fine, I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, a bit of banter's fine.
Yeah. But, I mean, like...
It's when it gets to bullying.
Yeah, exactly.
I think with the other groups, that's where they go wrong. I'm going back to that. Policing. I hate that word. Because that's what it is. Do you need to police adults?
You shouldn't have to, but it's the internet, remember? If it was
then
a
you
group,
restrict who comes in.
Yeah, the internet's weird. There's a lot of mean people on the internet where if you actually got it in a room with the same people, it would
be completely different.
Yeah, it'd be totally different. So the internet, it especially social media, there's so many bad things about social media. It brings out the worst in people, but there's so many good things about it as well, as we've just been discussing. It can be brilliant too.
And that goes to ego, I think. And on our page, I don't see anyone that has an ego like, look at me, I'm the best, I do the best. There's some people on our page they're quite clear and the top tilers in the country. You have someone ask them a question, they answer it, and they'll help them. And I think it stems from the name, Tyler's Community. Everyone's sort of in it together.
Yeah.
You'll find some that post that don't help as much. But from day one, we've always said, put in more than you get out.
Yeah. So inside that group, if someone is a new tiler and they might be listening, they might not be listening, but for anybody that wants to know, inside that group, other than saying, I'm a new tiler, can you help me with this? This is what I mean, it's more than just a group. It's weird, I don't know what to call it, but there is resources inside that group that people can tap into as a new tiler. Your guides, there's a post with loads and loads of guides on it for starters, so they don't even have to ask. If they just look, there's some guides there, really well really well written guides. But what else is there? If someone's new and they're listening now, and they're like, I'd like to get hold of Sam and ask, or whoever, Adrian, Sam, or one of the other admins, or anybody in the group, to ask what I need to do, because I've just done a course and I've done a few bathrooms, but I want to know more. What do they need to do inside that group or with yourself to get that experience?
So, straight away you could say, you probably can do it yourself. You don't need to post anything. You could come on there. I know there's a few people on there that haven't done their tiling course yet, and they're just on the page and they're reading everything, and they're gaining so much knowledge. They could probably go and price a job, go and tell you what needs to be done, how it needs to be done. The only thing they're lacking is the practical, because they haven't done the course yet. So there's a lot of knowledge on there just from reading. As you say, there's some guides on there.
Just to explain to people where all the guides and things are. I know where they are, obviously, but if someone's listening and they're like, well, what guides is he talking about? Where are they?
So it's funny, I'm going to have to get my phone out quickly just to find it.
You're supposed to know off the top of your head so a new tiler can find it quickly.
So if you go to the top of the page, very top, you've got the cover photo.
Yeah.
Slowly go down and there'll be the word featured. This is on an iPhone, so it might be different on something else.
Yeah.
The featured is where all the important news, all the new stuff is on there. So at the moment, we've just, we'll go on to it in a minute, about building relations. So Ultra and Dural, more involved, engaging on a direct link. But if you go to the right-hand side, it will say there's a picture with guide, and there's guides on there. And they're from, I would say they're more of the advanced. So you get a lot of tilers, 20, 30 years of tiling, never done herringbone. So we've done a herringbone guide. Floating floors, self-leveling of floors, brief exterior guides for sand cement, 20mm porcelain.
Yeah.
The weight limits for walls and substrates, movement and expansion joints.
Yeah.
Resin stitching screeds, how to identify screeds, different types, underfloor heating installation, which we just done with a electric underfloor heating supplier. We just put that together. You've also got on there risk assessments and method statements.
Yeah.
So we always try and update it for guides for people to get to.
Obviously, I know about that and I see that, but I don't even think you and the other admins realise what you've done there, because it's just one post on Facebook, but it's got lots and lots of really good guides on there. I don't think that exists anywhere else in one place in the world. I'm pretty certain of it, apart from maybe a tiling college. But even the college, I bet, doesn't have the actual, because every single guide, it's not just I've written a guide; it's a job that you've done.
Yeah,
so it's like
it does
practical.
take some time, but that goes back to what you say about how many messages do I get in my inbox. So some of the guides have reduced the amount of people that will message me. I'm quite bad in the way that if you message me and I don't answer straight away, it's not that I'm ignoring you, it's just that I've got a load in there and I don't have the time at the moment to get back to you in a message. And I'm one of these types of people. I'm not going to open it with no time and not give you my time.
Yeah.
If you message me, I'll support you and I'll help you, and I'll message you back. If I haven't got time right now, I'm not just going to say and quickly just chuck it over to you. I'll give you an answer, and it'll be a detailed answer so you know why
Yeah.
and how.
Yeah.
But anyone can message me. I'll get round to it, and I will message back usually within a couple of days. Maybe 70, 80 messages a week, maybe 100.
Yeah. And
Let me have a
you
look.
know by
It's more than
opening
that.
that message, it's going to turn into a conversation rather than a yes or a no. So I've seen people tag you in the group to say, I sent you a message, why haven't you answered it? And to be
Yeah,
honest, I've sent you messages before, but I know you're not going to answer it because normally when you do answer it, it's a conversation, and you do have a job that you go to every day. You don't just run the group, so I
yeah.
understand.
Now, realistically, messages or engaging messages, maybe 150 a week. With the guides now, that's why it's down to that. And that's not in a horrible way. And I don't mean it's in any, because if anyone needs help, they can message me any time of day. Might not answer it straight away, but I will answer it. But a lot of people's asking me about underfloor heating questions. So one week I might get 20 questions about underfloor heating. Some might be the same question. Some might be a part of the underfloor heating, like, look, I'm trying to test it. I can't get this. Someone else might say, look, I've got too much mat. What do I do? So by writing a guide, someone messages me about it, I can just give them a link. There's the guide, have a read through there. And it's not me being blunt, it's me saying that there's a full guide for you to read through so you can understand the whole process
You've
rather than
streamlined
me
it.
trying to explain it.
Yeah, you've created a process and a library rather
Yeah,
than answering the question every single time.
yeah, and that's because the page does take a lot of time. I'm not gonna lie, it takes a lot of time. So I'll get phone calls as well, obviously. And that's from different members of different things. Some just want to chat. Some just want to run some ideas past me. Could be one of the companies is involved on the page, and they say, "Look, we want to do this. We want to bring this into the page, for example." So we've just done an online training webinar with Ultra for the working in cold temperatures. Obviously, it's not just will you come and do it with us? I say, yeah, I'll come do it with you. You don't then just log in when everyone else logs in and just go with it. There's obviously loads of emails, arranging stuff, calls, and they say what they want to cover. Good thing with the companies that are involved is I say to them, that's good, but can we get some of the details that I want included? So at the moment, grout, that's a bit of a touchy subject. People getting patchy grout. I might get shot down by the tilers here, but it's not always the grout's fault. There's so many different things that could be to blame that aren't the grout. Humidity, moisture in the air, all sorts of things. So I said to Ultra, look, can we cover the grout on this as well? I know it's probably not quite relative to working in cold temperatures, but I think it can be included and be relative. So a lot of these companies that, if they want to benefit from the page, they need to give back to the page.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
So that
It's a big market.
everything that you've just said, so dealing with a company like Instamac, so everything that you've just said, that to arrange that day, I'll take a guess that it was maybe 10 emails, 3 meetings face to face, however many phone calls, to and fro, approval by various departments in a company such as Instamac, who's a big professional company, that they wouldn't just do it on the fly. It would have been properly planned and properly approved. So for people to understand that you, who are a tiler and you've got a day job, you've just arranged all of that with a big company with they had probably 5 or 6 people working on it just to do one day, and they're all on a salary and it's their day job to organise that. You've been part of their team to organise that webinar or whatever it was for free.
Yeah, I think it benefits the members though. To be honest, for me, I'm always busy, so it does take time. and sometimes I find time to do it. I don't know how. I just think, right, I've got to get that done. So it'd be an email. I think it started actually with a phone call from Martin Pouncey, technical
Yeah.
support at Ultra.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in helping us do a webinar? I said, yeah, no, get me the details, I'll come on and do it. I'll be honest, I didn't even have the app. I had to download the app to log in. Same as this tonight. So
just
get
to
all
let
the
people
details
know,
from there.
what time is it now? It's 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday.
11:15.
We've been planning this for weeks, just this conversation, but we originally planned to start this conversation at 10 o'clock this morning,
10 o'clock this morning.
and now it's 11 o'clock at night.
And that's the thing. Sometimes you look at it, you think, if I wasn't on the phone during the week, I wouldn't have been going to my unit this morning to get rid of the wet cutter, to go and pick up some more materials for tomorrow. And pinning me down to dates can be quite hard. So it has to be, and Instamac are really good. They know that I'm busy, and they're really understanding of Tyler's straight away on the webinar.
With regards,
thank you for your time.
Yeah, so Instamac are brilliant, and if anybody, do they show people around the place if they ask?
Well, we've just actually, because they've always engaged with the page, we've actually just got like an agreement, which is another thing that people probably wouldn't understand. It's
so if you
coming up.
So it's a good time. So if you explain to people, because this is the reason really why me and Alan started talking about it, because we were talking about why do certain manufacturers or retailers or brands or whoever have a relationship with the group when others don't. But what I know of the group is what you and the other admins will allow. If you're small, if you're first of all, if you're part of the group and you've got another business or a side business, you're very supportive. They can more or less do without spamming or being ridiculous. They can more or less do whatever they want within the group, and you'll always support them as a small business. But when it's a big manufacturer, can you just explain to people how you decide who to work with or who gets showcased at any particular one time, and what kind of how they get in touch with you and ask? Because I know lots of different manufacturers are asking, because it's a great place to be in with 4,000 engaged Tylers. Could you just explain to people how you make those decisions? And it's not who pays in the most.
I certainly wouldn't be up at 11:20 doing a podcast otherwise.
Yeah.
But and that's the whole reason of doing this. Let people know who Tyler's community are, and hopefully we can go on, do some more podcasts, maybe some learning podcasts, whatever people request of you.
Definitely.
If you need my help, I'll come on here.
Definitely.
But yes, we split them. To be honest, I do pretty much most of these decisions myself, and that's for only one reason. Obviously, we discuss it in with the admin. So I'm a bit of a nightmare. When I do something, it's 100 mile an hour, and I'm not going to say I'm going to do this. I could do that. I'm going to do the whole lot. It's feet first. I'm going all the way as much as I can, as good as I can. So I won't even bother the admin with it, because I might have 1,000 ideas a week. I'll get to a stage, and then I'll say to them, look, I've got this idea. I've been in touch with them. It's a possibility. What do you think? And I'll play it off them. Adrian is great. He's very good in a way that he's impartial. So, for instance, I use Ruby cutters. He uses Monolith cutters. It's good to have diversity, I think, through the admin. I'm 100 mile an hour. He's a bit more level-headed, calm, steady. Whereas I'll rush off. I'm trying to do something. I want to do it. And then we'll put it across in between admin, discuss it, and say, we almost have this thing like, I say I want to do it. And then he'll say, right, I'm going to attack it, why we shouldn't do it. And then I'll defend it. And then someone else in the admin will look from the outside and say, well, look, this is what I'm seeing, if that makes sense. So you're seeing it from both sides. But we split them into what we say manufacturers and sellers. So Ultra are a seller, but only to shops and distributors. So we'd put them as a manufacturer. Obviously, they're there to take people's money. They're a business. That's why they're in there. But they can't sell direct to us tilers, so it's through sellers. So they're not actually profiting directly from anything they post in the page. Whereas a seller like Pro Tiler, they're making money and they're making profit. So I'd worked with Pro Tiler in the past. It was quite clear they weren't going to pay the fees or be. I think it would have been worth them paying the fees on the existing page because they've done quite well out of it.
That's in the old group, just to be clear.
Yeah, in the old
they
group,
don't pay any fees to you.
No.
Not that.
To be honest,
you should charge.
I've had a couple of freebies like the Tyler's community hat and that, but the amount I spend with them, I feel like I'm worse off than the members, to be honest, because I've always said to them, treat me as everyone else, and I don't want any special treatment. I want the members to be treated how I'm treated, and what I expect them to be given. And to be fair, they don't need that.
So this is how you make a decision with who. When it comes to big names, I mean, for small names, I know you're very, very supportive. You don't ask for anything. But when it comes to big names, this is how you make a decision. What are you going to do for the group?
Yeah, split them into manufacturer or seller. So seller is a lot harder to get on the page because, and a lot of people probably don't see it. I know I can't always make a decision. The final decision, as I say, always goes down to me. Because if it's the wrong decision, that's on my head. No one else is going to get abused for it. And I can't always make the right decision. Everyone makes mistakes. All I can do is look and think what benefits the members most. So a seller, it's very hard to get on there. There was a couple of gaps, different sellers. But yourself, you're an approved seller on the page. We'll support you as much as we can. Because at the end of the day, the page is set up for Tyler's benefit. So a seller can get on there, but the same as with Pro Tiler. So they sell a certain percentage of profits they make from the page goes back in the way of freebies. So we've seen Tyler's community hoodies, hats, water bottles, stuff like this. So they give a lot back. They also give a lot back in terms of, because they are getting such a big share of the sales from the page, they can manage to just slightly lessen the profit margins, or do bulk buys, run the trading days, and they do a lot of exclusives just for the page. So if we then encourage another seller to come in, all of a sudden Pro Tiler have lost a lot of their sales. The people we are bringing in, they're going to say what I need to hear, because that's how they get on a page. They're going to tell me everything I need to hear. Will they do that? Will they supply that service? We don't know till they start. But all they have done is taken away sales from a company that we know works and is for the benefit of the members.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily take sales away because I know, I've worked in the industry, there aren't many better online than Pro Tiler tools. And I'm not just saying that's the truth. They're very, very good at what they do. So it's not just a case of they gain sales or lose sales. They're really good. And people like them. So it's like, obviously being in a group of tilers of nearly 4,000 actual tilers who buy stuff is advantageous. And I think they would admit that themselves. But they're actually really, really good at what they do. It's not just a case of anybody can come in. They have to be good.
No, that's right. And they get problems. Courier doesn't get it on time or stuff like that. And that is one of the very things they sort of meet the ethics of the page. You've probably seen it yourself. I know personally. They've taken trim at 8, 9 o'clock at night to a customer because Courier didn't get it there. I mean, you can't expect every company to do that, of course. But they'll go out of their way to fix a problem if there is one.
Yeah, they'll do it if they can. I would expect every company to do it if they can, but for someone the size of Pro Tiler, that is a strange thing to hear. And I've always known this. I used to work for Tile Giant a couple of years ago now, I left there. But I've always known that the way they operate is a little bit different to the bigger companies that they've got a face. So there's a face to the business, and it's more than one face. It's a few people. Everybody knows who they are, but they actually do things that you expect. You would more likely see from a family business or a small business where they just jump in their own car and bring you something, which actually is brilliant. Why can't a big company do that? They can, but they don't, because the people that work for them aren't part of the family. Do you know what I mean? So Pro Tiler are obviously running their business as close to a family business as they can, and everybody actually cares. Because what's stopping a big company from a member of staff jumping in a car and taking something? There's nothing stopping them, but they won't do it for various reasons, loads of reasons, legal, insurance. But it doesn't really happen.
I think as they got bigger, I mean, as every company, would they do that if they was doing 10 times the turnover they was doing and stuff like that? They've always cared since day one, but it's one of them things that doing that then brings in, there has to be a shut-off time from work. So 9 o'clock at night, driving 120 mile round trip for some trims that didn't turn up for somebody. I mean, to me, I think I would have said, look,
I didn't know it was 120 mile round trip.
I'm sure it was 100. It was a few hours.
Jesus.
So for me, I would have been explaining, look, it's out of our hands. It's a courier's problem. We can get you some out, or you can go and buy some and return them ones. But it's not about. So it would have been cheaper to tell him, you go and buy them from another retailer. They double the cost. Send them ones back, or we'll get them recollected when they do turn up, and we'll reimburse you the difference. But for them, it's not about that. I think it's more about, we will get you them because we said we'll get you them.
Yeah, exactly.
And being Tylers, they understand.
If you can, you will, and I've done the same myself. But if you couldn't, you admit and you said, "I'm really sorry, it's not possible." But I've done it myself. I've drove from Stoke to Leeds to drop a few tubes of grout off before now because it was like urgent and I didn't want to let him down. But if it wasn't possible, I wouldn't have done it. I only did it because it was possible and I wanted to. But I would have been honest with you.
That's customer care, though. I mean, as a company gets bigger, you probably know, working with Tile Giant, everything goes to a computer system and a protocol. So, emails, you could spend so much time. Have you tried this? Have you tried this?
Yeah, I think I'm a fan of systems and all those computers, protocol systems, processes. I'm a big fan of all of that. But I think ultimately, when you get bigger, there's more people involved. So there's more chance of a bigger percentage of the people not really caring as much. Which is why I think Pro Tiler have done a good job there, because it seems, to me anyway, some people might disagree with me, I don't know. Everybody who has ended up working there, who I've dealt with, cares. And they go out of their way.
That's a big difference. I think it's... And because they are started as a small company, they've sort of grown with the right ethics as well and chosen the right people. But yeah, so they meet every criteria really that you would expect from a company. They engage with the members, they talk to the members, they assist the members, they help the members out. So that's the sort of company we want. So we basically say, if you put into the page, and it's not just you get some now, company will start posting and help and sort of assisting. And then I've even had one doing that for about a week or two, and they messaged me saying, look, here's some screenshots of all the pictures I've taken of me helping people. Can I now advertise? And I'm like, no. It doesn't work like that. You're doing what you want me to see so you can gain the sales, because that's what they want to gain.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. They've got a right to want to gain the sales.
It's a brilliant place to be. If you're in that group as someone who sells stuff, and if you're also good, they might all be good. There's a lot of good people out there and good manufacturers out there. It's a fantastic group to be in, and the fact that you don't charge people is actually kind of amazing, because to get that kind of audience, kind of a captive audience, very engaged audience, it's impossible anywhere else. You wouldn't be able to do it. You'll see manufacturers and retailers have got their own groups and their own pages, but they've got very, very little engagement. Very little.
It's always going to be one-sided. If they create a page, do they want people talking about Perflex grout? They don't, because they don't sell it.
Yeah.
They should do. They're probably scared that they won't sell any other grouts.
They definitely should do.
But it's not a neutral, free-to-speak page then, is it? You're restricted.
Yeah. It's not natural.
So,
It can't be
no.
natural. Even
Same as our
however
page.
much you try and make it natural, it's not possible because of the things that you've just said. But it was never, it never grew organically. It's a massive, massive company. Whoever it might be anyone. You don't have to name anybody. To just create a group and say we're this massive company and we've just created a group. It's not organic. It can't work. It takes years and years to get the organic growth of a proper community.
And it might do quite well and support their sort of business a bit, but you won't have people in the.
Is it a group or a page?
It's a group.
Yeah, groups are a bit different than a page, and it's a strange one to try and get a group. I don't think I'm a member of it. I don't know how many members it has, but it's a marketing page, really.
It's to try and keep the tilers there. Maybe they're watching what we do and see, it's quite good.
Yeah,
let's get our tilers on Facebook.
I'm sure they do, because if they could replicate that, it'd be gold.
I would say to any member that's on the page, I know that there's CEOs of all companies in there. Loads of people that you wouldn't think was in there.
And your page?
Yeah. It's our page. I always say our page because it's the members. Because everyone's built the page to what it is. Everyone sort of does the same thing. Go back to people maybe going a bit too far with stuff. You get a member jump on and say, look, that's too far, mate. And then you get someone else jump on and agree. And he sort of looks around him and thinks, you know what, I've gone too far. So I don't think the page needs policing. You don't need to police a page. If the members are thinking on the same wavelength, then they should control it. They tell someone if it's been out of order.
Yeah.
But yeah, companies, if they engage, and they've engaged for a long time, then obviously, why shouldn't they be rewarded back with gaining the sales back?
They won't even necessarily get sales. What you're saying to them is, I can tell me if this is correct, right? So this is why I wanted to talk to you to get your opinion on it, because I was making assumptions on the other recording that I did with Alan. So I was comparing it to a shop. So let's say a tile shop or a builder's merchant, and they say to a manufacturer asks them if they can do a promotion in store. So doing a promotion in 100 stores, in my opinion, is similar to doing a promotion on Tyler's Community. In fact, Tyler's Community might be larger than doing a promotion in 100 stores, because you've got more Tylers actually seeing it, engaged Tylers that actually spend money. So they would say to the company who's got the stores, can we do a promotion? And the company who owns the stores literally says, yeah, what's in it for us? And it usually boils down to some kind of kickback or payment or rebate or something. So they're used to doing it, and I was comparing that to you allowing, I know at the moment you've got Ultra and Durell, so you say to Durell, whoever it may be, say Ultra, we would like to showcase ourselves on your page, which is the equivalent in my eyes of doing a promotion in somebody who's got 100 stores. And all you're asking them to do, your only question to them is, what's in it for the group? You're not asking them to pay for the pleasure.
So they've already proven in time that they've spent on there. So Ultra and Durell, Jack Trough from Durell, he's been on there since day one, forever giving out specifications, helping people.
So at the moment you've got what do you call it, a showcase or a promotion of Ultra and Durell?
I don't even know what the word is for it, to be honest.
You've kind of built or created a closer link with specific brands for a period of time, and while that relationship is there, they're offering a lot more to the group than they would usually offer. Is that fair?
Yeah, so Ultra wanted to do some webinars and stuff like that with the page. They wanted to use the page, basically say to me, can we share the webinars in the page, educate some tilers through online webinars? And I said to them, yeah, that's fine. Then it got on to, would you want to join one? So obviously I agreed. Said I'll go on there. And then I thought, they've been on there from day one, helping members, stuff like that. And I thought, what else can I get out of them to do with members? I know that they do the webinars. I know that they share people's work, stuff like that. So I thought, let me see what I can get out of them for the members. So I spoke to the contact there. I said to him, look, we're fine to showcase your materials and your webinar stuff, if that makes sense. But what I've got the problem is, every other adhesive company on there is now going to be asking me, why can't we have that? But they haven't approached me to say, can we do online webinars for the group? So if I've been asked and approached to that, I thought, why don't we do that? They're coming out, they're reaching out to us. They want to give more to the page. They want to engage more with the page. So I said to them, how about we put your cover photo on your logo on the cover photo? Obviously, they wanted to be on there. I suppose from them it's bragging rights. Other adhesive companies aren't up there. So then obviously I had a lot of thinking to do, because obviously I'm always going to get the accusation, Ultra sponsored the page now. They pay you to sponsor the page.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, I've got a very good relationship with Steve Ball from Palace.
Yeah.
I use Palace. So
I mentioned this when I was talking to Alan. I used to follow the groups as part of my job, just keeping an eye on social media. So I knew names of admins and famous people from the groups, or tilers that were active a lot in the groups. And I was always convinced that you must be sponsored by Palace. But now I've met Steve.
I've never even had a free T-shirt.
Yeah, so I've obviously met you. I've met Steve from Palace. I've spoken to people from Palace, and it's just not true, and it's not the case. But even if it was, then so why are Ultra now on the page? Unless they've got deeper pockets than Palace, if that's what people think, and it's just not the case. You can ask anybody.
Well, there was a lot of, when we spoke about this, we spoke to Ultra, and they wanted to do more. I thought this is a good opportunity to try and. They want to engage with the members. I wonder how much I can get them to engage even more. So I said to them, would you be interested in going on a cover photo? Obviously they wanted to. And then there's talks between us, obviously. If they're put up there, then there's... Basically, I said, I'll put you up there because you engage with the members. But I've got some demands. And this is a bullet point list of some of the things I want for the members. Obviously, some aren't achievable, but you've got to put them in. And they said to me, okay, we engage with the members, we want to educate, we want to help the members, we're already in there, but we want to do it on a better level. And I said, I'll give you the exposure on the cover photo. If you can give even more engagement, you tell me what you can give us back. What can you do for the members? So it wasn't just you go on a cover photo. It was, what else can you give us in exchange for going up there? So basically a trade-off. So then they come back with a few different bits. I asked for some more bits. Unrealistic, maybe. But they honoured it. And they said, in exchange, we'll do exclusive for Tyler's community. We'll do at least three academy training days per year at Instamac of subjects that we choose. So we've got that.
We Ultra, or we the group?
The group.
Yeah.
So the group has got at least 3 exclusive training academy days at Ultra's headquarters at Instamac as part of that agreement. Also, any new products they bring out, they'll get like a small exclusive amount of them, put them into the group and approach people in the group and say, would you be prepared to trial our new product? It's It's not out yet, but would you want to trial it? Get feedback from tilers, see how they think it is, what improvements they want. It's almost like a bit of research and development with people that actually would use this stuff. There's a few more bits and pieces as well, so the webinar training and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I personally think
it's like I say, it is similar to a partnership that they would have with a retailer. The only difference being is there's no cash incentive involved.
yeah, and people will call me crazy for not trying to demand cash. I mean, we've got the academy days, and this is the whole thing of the page. It's for the education and support of members, getting them. Maybe I'm a critic of my own stuff. No one's going to judge me more than I judge myself. And I see the page. We've done as much as we could, in my opinion. We've got it to a point where it was really good. But then you're asking yourself, what else can I do to make this better? Because it's at a stage now where it's really good, but nothing new. There's no improvement. And I hate not being able to improve something. So, before I even agreed this with Ultra, I thought I have to be neutral. Obviously, I'd already done polls, plenty of polls, and this is where people think I just do this on a click of a whim overnight. This has been going on for 6 months, maybe, the build up to this. 3 polls throughout the 12 months. Ultra scored the highest on every single time. So, that's the group's favourite adhesive in the votes and the polls over the last 12 months. If I was personal choice, it would have been Ultra first. Although Tollmaster is second favourite, they've not been the best at getting back to members. So the next choice would have been Bow and Ardex, who I think are another great company. The downside is, it's not as affordable as Ultra. So then I also looked at that. It wasn't just a quick off-the-cuff chance. It's, where can people get Ultra? So I know Pro Tiler have got it, but not everyone orders from Pro Tiler. Where else can we get it? And Ultra is available in more stores than any other adhesive, I believe. So then it was almost opening up for everybody.
Yeah, and there's nothing saying that. So people can attend these courses and take advantage of the knowledge that, or the benefits that they're offering, and even take advantage of free products. But you don't have to use Ultra. You can still go and use whatever you want, and the other brands are still in the group and they're still represented in the group. It's not like the group's exclusively Ultra. You've just done an agreement with them where they get something out of it, as in exposure, and the group gets something out of it, as in all the things that you've just said.
Yeah, definitely not. I'd encourage the other companies to engage themselves. In fact, I speak to all of them. I know there's 2 Tollmaster stroke Keracol reps that are actually coming onto the page, which would be the first time they've been involved in social media.
Really?
Yeah, 2 of them. So he's asked me, they've been having a look. The company gets a bit of a hammering. So I've said to them, look, don't just come on and start commenting, replying to posts from ages ago. You need to introduce yourself, because otherwise you're going to get slack from the stuff before.
Yeah.
When I made the decision with Ultra to go with them for like a build up on a cover photo, get benefits out of them for the members, I was very conscious that another company on the page was bound to put a lot in. So as soon as I'd agreed that with Ultra, I messaged Lewis and Sean straight away and explained it's still a neutral page. Nothing changes. I know a lot of members use Bow purely based on their experience with Sean and Lewis and how they've assisted them, supported them.
But with all the discussion around Grout, the one that consistently comes out as it's never had an issue, it's always been consistently high quality for years and years, and it's always been there. I know because the place I worked at didn't sell it, but we had to get it because some people will only use it. They don't care what the cost is because the quality's there. In my experience, the only one that's always been consistently extremely high quality with very few, if any, issues is Bal.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think I had one bag, one problem. That's all we used to use. And when I spoke to the reps, they actually asked me what I'd done, and it's actually my mess up. And I could pretend it wasn't my mess up, but I'm not like that. It clearly was my mess up. The sealer I put on wasn't dry enough. It was quite clear it wasn't dry enough. Took a chance, and that was my fault. But other than that, never had a problem with Micromax grout. The downside is it is expensive,
Yeah.
but
Good support though.
good support. Yeah, I'd say Ultra Bow and Ardex, in my opinion, are the best support in the country. Also, the most engaging on the page. Unfortunately, for Bow, Ultra wanted to do the webinars. They was engaging with the webinars, stuff like that. I still speak to Phil, the marketing, Bow.
But I'll do loads of stuff online anyway. They're
Yeah,
always doing tutorials and webinars. It's all there if people want to find it. It's free.
I speak to all of them. So last week, I was on the phone to Dave Rowley from Bow, maybe an hour, maybe. Speaking about Bow, but mainly TTA and about
We haven't talked about the TT8 yet.
that's a touchy subject for some people. But so last week, just with the other calls, I was on the phone to Dave Rowley about Bow from Bow about TTA and lobbying for funding, not for under 21s,
So
but
Dave's a member. He's on the board at the TTA.
yeah, for training.
Yeah.
So he gets involved with apprenticeships, stuff like that. And we're basically having a discussion about lobbying at government level for accessing more funding for adults, so above 21, learning in the industry. Because you get a lot of these apprentices are set up for big electrical companies, big carpentry companies, big bricklaying companies. There's so many tilers out there that work on their own. Are they going to register for employing someone, paying their pension, all of this stuff to get an apprentice? A lot of them will say it's not financially beneficial, so they just don't do it. And that's then pupils missing out. I mean, if you was working on your own, had done for 10 years, would you then set up a limited company, payroll, register for pensions, just to get an apprentice? It's it doesn't really work, but obviously a lot of the colleges demand that it's an apprenticeship scheme. So that's what we were talking about last week. But for over 21-year-olds, government granting, so he's going to be lobbying for that at like government level to get more funding for learning for adults. But every adhesive company is welcome on the page. So I've had a lot contact me since Ultra's badge has gone up on the cover photo. And I'll say to everyone that is purely just for the benefits that the member are getting from it and the approach from Ultra and how can we engage with the members on a more engagement way, be more directly involved. If Bow would ask me the same question, we could be Bow up there by now. If Tollmaster, it was, in actual fact, I'd hoped that all of them would have asked me at the same time, because then I could have really negotiated the best benefits and played them off each other. But obviously not everything works that way. But we've had a lot of offers since from other adhesive companies. I won't name companies, but one wants to take members out to Italy, training on their adhesive factory tour, and then back out, all expenses paid, obviously. But then, and this is probably where the members don't see my side of things, is that they've offered that now, but they've never posted on the page, never engaged on the page. So, do I take that offer for the members? And then is that their way of buying into the page? Because then always I'm in an awkward, because they're saying, well, we done that, so what can we get back out? So you get a lot of people that think they can buy their way into the page, but for me it doesn't work that way. Spending time and engaging, that is worth more than any amount of offers they can offer me. and I still won't take them. I think some companies are a bit confused by it. Like I was saying earlier about the heating company, just going, well, just let us know. I said, there is no exclusivity.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the industry. We want to be exclusive. How much will it cost? Blah blah blah.
Yeah, so the page will never be exclusive to any manufacturer. When I say manufacturer, I would say people that make cutters, Monolith, Sigma, Ruby, stuff like that. Bentfer, for argument's sake, anyone that produces a material or a tool, they can post what they want. Obviously, we ask for approval. The only reason that is, say, for example, Ultra are going to post up about their adhesive, and then Bow comes straight in afterwards. This is only an example, obviously, with their equivalent. It's just a conflict of interest. Let members see that product. Then you can post your one tomorrow or later on. You don't need to chase the next company, because otherwise what happens is you get a competition, and then another adhesive company, Tollmaster, might come and say, wow, this is our one. And then all of a sudden you've got a page full of adverts like some of these groups, and there's actually no content that you want to see.
Yeah.
It's just all adverts.
Yeah. So you just talked about the TTA. Explain to people how you got involved with the TTA and what you do. So the TTA is the Tile Association, and
So
you
TTA, that sort of started on a bit of a whim, really. So as I said before, I've got a good relationship with Steve from Palace. I've got a good relationship with everyone. I think company level, like speak to a lot of them. Dave from Bow, Phil from Bow, Martin from Ultra, Ruby, Lee Carr from Sigma. I pretty much get on with all of them and try and just let them know that if you need anything, you want to do anything on the page, just say to me, drop me a message, anything like that. We support them as much as they want to support the members. But obviously, you've got to put in to get back out. I touched on the TTA thing. There was a few negative posts, and then I sort of looked at it, and they hadn't really been, I would say, engaging with tilers. In my honest opinion, I don't think they'd really been. Not everyone knew who they are. I think maybe not everyone does now still. It's changing, and it is getting better. But I think a lot of people were very negative about it, and there was probably 6 or 7 people. I think I put up a post. What does everyone think of the TTA? And it was just all negativity. I think there wasn't anyone that wasn't negative, if I'm honest. If there was anyone that supported it, they stayed quiet. So, and it was genuine interest, because I thought, in this industry, there's a place for an association, or someone that's at a higher level than the page that can sort of do what the page is doing, if that makes sense, and that's looking out for each person. And there's a lot of opinions, and I said, well, who said that to you? Well, that's what I got told. And another one was, yeah, well, I heard they done this. So I thought, this is all going off hearsay. No one's actually heard this from them themselves.
yeah.
So I thought, the TTA is in the best position to have the best impact on this industry. Obviously, doesn't mean they can or will, but I thought they're in the best position. So everyone just walked past them, ignored them, off of someone's opinion from years ago. So I said to the members, I said, why don't I try and get up a meeting set up with TTA? People said, you're wasting your time, blah, blah, blah. So I said to them, look, what's the harm in trying? If we go there, and I go there on behalf of the members, and they kick us back, we know the answer. That's maybe them people was right what they've said. But if we don't try, then we never know. So, and I know the TTA have not really been, they've not been on social media before, or maybe on their own page, but they've never been on a Facebook group. It's just something that they've tried to avoid from, because they've had quite a bad reputation from years ago. So I said to Steve, I need a favour. And he said, what do you need? So I said to him, I want to meet him with the chairman of the TTA. And Steve knows what I'm like. He said, what do you want? I said, I want to meet him with him. He said, yeah, but what about? I said, just about Tyler's and the TTA and the relations. He said, well, from years ago, this is not something that happens. He said, have you tried emailing them? I said, no, I don't want to email. I want to sit at a table with him. And I think Steve was sort of thinking, oh, what's he actually want? So I explained to Steve, I said, look, I think they could be a benefit for us, but a lot of people tell me they can't, they won't, they're useless, they don't look out for the Tylers. I said, so I want to answer that question. So he said to me, I'll find out, I'll get through. And I said to him, no, get me the meeting if you can. And to be fair, Steve said, look, I'll get you the meeting. Because obviously he's involved with TTA. He's in one of the committees. So I was pretty, I wasn't sure if he was going to get a reply back or not. A week had gone past, so I phoned Steve up. And I can't remember the exact conversation. I think it was something like, we've got 2,500 Tylers waiting for an answer for TTA. Are we going to get a meeting or not? We just want to basically get some outlines, see what they're about, what they can offer for Tylers. And I think I might have been a bit pressurising. I said, if I don't get an answer, it's fine. I'll just post it next Friday and say that I can't get hold of anyone. No one wants to talk to us. So maybe putting them in a corner. Maybe it was a bit heavy on pressurising them into making it happen. But I can't remember when it was, but I met with Steve. Steve said, Paul Luff, who's the chair, the head of the TTA, he said he's happy to meet you. He wants to speak to you. So we met. I think he drove down from Coventry, actually, because we met at Blue Water. So it was about 20 minutes from where I was working. So he's driven 4 hours, maybe, down to meet me with Steve. And he basically asked, what is it you want to know? And I said to him, everything. And I think he sort of laughed at me because it's obviously a massive organisation. There's training, technical, there's all sorts. And I just said to him, look, what can we... Tyler's... The feedback I get from Tyler's about TTA is all bad. I said, but I think you're best placed to benefit the Tylers, or at least make a change for the positive. And we went for a conversation about it all. And I said to him, look, they think you hide a lot of stuff, don't tell us a lot of stuff, don't engage with us. You're supposed to be the Tylers Association. No one's heard from you. And I think he said something along those lines. Why don't you come for a meeting then? Why don't you come and sit on one of the board meetings? And there's nothing to hide. We'll show you it all. So I said, okay, we'll come for one of the board meetings. I thought that was the end of it. I'd given him my email address and contact details so we could get in touch. And I got an email with a confirmed date, TTA meeting on this date, this time. I think it was during COVID, so it was through like a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
So I phoned Steve up and I said, I've just got an invite. And we went and sat there together. There was first meeting, they introduced me in, who I was. And I'm still in there, still on the board, in the committee, sorry. Going over meetings and looking at details, stuff like that. It comes up with all sorts. I won't go too much into detail because
So yeah, so that's developed into you kind of representing Tyler's.
Yes,
within,
I'm on there as Sam Hoffman, Tyler's Community.
Yeah.
That is what I'm there as.
Yeah.
Not as me myself, but as Tyler's Community. And basically, I said to the TTA, I want to come in, see what it's all about. Speak back to the Tylers, and I want to be able to go back to them from each meeting and be able to say something, what you're doing, how you're doing, what your plans are, and stuff like that. And I think they was a bit wary at first because most Tylers just slagged them off. So I think I was a bit wary at first, but they invite me into the meetings. I mean, I saw the financials coming up on some of the slideshows and stuff like that. There was nothing to hide. They wasn't hiding anything. Um, and some of the ideas they come up with, what they wanted to do, stuff like that. So I think one of the very early things was um, working a relationship with the TTA's equivalent in Spain. And from this, they said, look, we want people to come on this large format. Um, it's a tour of the factories. It's learning all the standards, learning the practical and stuff like that. And they actually, I can't remember if I posted it on. Yeah, I think I posted it onto the page for them on their behalf, and they've got loads of applicants, stuff like that. Because it's a free trip, all paid for by the Spanish TTA. Because the TTA over here is obviously they get their income from manufacturers and tilers and stuff like that, and sponsors of like the awards and stuff like that. It's a little bit different in Spain, as though they're propped up by the tile companies because they're based out in Valencia, and the tile companies that produce these tiles need someone on that level to sell their tiles and encourage other companies and countries. So Spanish TTA, this building must be worth a couple of £1 million. The biggest, flushest place. They've got money to burn because it's the toll companies that are just giving them money, chucking money at them, basically.
There's a lot of manufacturers there who obviously want them to represent them at government level or whatever they do.
Yeah, it's a massive industry for them. Massive.
Yeah.
So that went onto the page, and it sort of spiraled from there, really. I spoke to Kay, who she's come into the TTA a few years back, same as Paul, and she's really passionate about. She has a marketing company, so she's very passionate about. Look, we do need to engage with the tilers, and I think a lot of people probably have seen the complete turnaround of how much engagement from TTA. So, like I say, I posted that post up for them on their behalf because they didn't have a Facebook page that was logged in or joined into the group. Since then, they've done their own group. I think a few people have become members. You're always going to get people that don't think it's right. They don't need them. I've never used them before. Why do I need to use them now?
What do they do?
Yeah,
It's always been a question, like, what do they do? I'd like to speak to them and record it and just let them speak, so then it's there for everybody to hear, to say this is actually what we do. Because I think there is a feeling that, and in all honesty, a few years ago when I didn't really know what they did either, I wasn't sure what to think of them. So I was like, well, what do they do? And it's just like you say, it's because people just don't know what they do. It's not like they do nothing. So becoming more engaged. Yeah, exactly.
I don't think they shout loud enough about what they do. So like I said, speaking to Dave Rowley, and that was just one part of what they do, and that was lobbying to the government for improving the funding for training tilers. You've got the technical. There's loads you can do, and loads they do.
Yeah. I know they did a lot over the COVID restrictions period to allow
protecting the companies.
Yeah, to allow companies to remain open.
That's right. So
carry on doing business.
Yeah, because you have B&Q open, and Topps Tiles looking out the window can't open.
Yeah,
watching people walking in and out of Topps Tiles. So lobbied for that. They lobbied for the industry as a whole, really.
Yeah.
So British Standards, this is a big confusion. So British Standards isn't the TTA. British Standards is its own company, which is a weird thing anyway, because to get the British Standards you have to buy them. So how can you fit to a standard you don't have access to? But the TTA advised them on, because British Standards are a company that don't know nothing about tiling. So the TTA sit on there and advise on what is realistic and achievable, with obviously their technical team. Because otherwise the British Standards could say, well, that's what we think. They don't know no different. So the TTA advise. on that level. And there's so many other levels that they do. Involvement with colleges. They even do some master classes now. It's hard to explain really what they do
I'll get
because
them
there's so
on.
much.
I should get them on and just let them speak. I'll just say, right, just tell everybody what it is that you do, because it's like you say, it's different levels that they do it at as well. But I suppose for your group and this particular podcast is about your group. What do you do for the
Yeah, I think
tilers?
they've got a good relationship with our group. I've got a good relationship with the TTA as well. Problem is, everyone wants to see change straight away, and change doesn't happen straight away. It never does. What I can say, I'm not going to say the details because obviously I see these in the meetings and there's stuff in work with the TTA and stuff. But there's a lot more in plans and stuff that's already been sanctioned, like to be done.
Yeah.
And they really have upped the level to benefit Natala more. And this is something that I was always quite big on. They didn't do enough for the Tyler, or they wasn't vocal enough about what they do for the Tyler. So I suppose almost come like a middle person, someone representing the Tylers to them, because everyone had said they're no good, but no one had actually gone in there and tried. So they're changing for the better. From years ago, I'm talking years ago before the current board now, and there's always classes, gentlemen's club and stuff like that. But then there's a lot of companies that send their staff there. So Palace, Bow, Giral, Schluter, they all sit in different committees talking about stuff, what to lobby for, what not to do. And you've got to ask yourself why. Because the times go, yeah, it's propped up by them. But why is it propped up? Why would they let their staff go there at their cost for no gain? If every tile is saying that we don't use them, what's there to gain? And it genuinely is for the industry's benefits. So if you didn't have them, what we know now would be a lot worse. We wouldn't have the standards, or they'd be a lot stricter and unrealistic. We wouldn't have them sort of emphasising how important tiles are compared to, say, plastic substitutes that are not eco-friendly. So they do a lot. Obviously, you're going to have people like vinyl flooring companies or associations. They want to try and lobby to get that as the main product. And it is like a competition between them both. The vinyl people are saying it's better product for the floor, it's more environment friendly or whatever. Then obviously that can affect, and this is the level it goes to, the taxes. A bit like the porcelain dumping tax on importing tiles, as you'll probably know yourself.
Yeah.
So that is another subject that was up for lobbying recently. So it's more for the industry, but also a lot for the tilers as well.
Yeah, there's different levels to it, isn't there? So the lobby at a government level with government organisations, but then what they offer to the worker, the actual tiler, is something a little bit different. But obviously, that what they're doing at the higher level is going to affect the tiler eventually. But they also have a lot of other things that they can offer to tilers.
Yeah, if you want
to
my
be a
honest
member.
opinion, and they probably might not like it, but I think there's a lot more they could do for tilers. And that's something that I'm always pushing for. And they take a lot on board, to be honest. Change doesn't happen straight away. If I suggest something now, it's not going to happen next week. Even if they agree and say, yeah, let's do that, it's not going to happen next month or the month after. And what you've got to remember is all the people that go there are volunteers. So Palace will pay Steve for his time there to go there because it is the benefit of Palace. So UKCA markings on imported products, they know about that very early on. So they can tell the adhesive companies, this is the new rulings coming in after Brexit. This is what you need to abide by. I mean, that could cost or save a company thousands upon thousands if they just get a load of new adhesive bags made up. It hasn't got them markings on it. It's obviously going to have to get new ones. Tyler's paying for that on top of the price of adhesive. There's so much they do. That a lot of tilers probably only see what they do for me personally, and that's probably a lot of the problem. But then also on the flip side, they should be showing what do they do for you.
And to
And
be
it
fair,
means a lot.
I'm not involved with them. I'm not a tiler, but I've seen a lot more engagement over the past 6 to 12 months. Lots more. They're doing a lot more. So they're obviously trying. And I know Paul, and I know Paul cares. If nothing else, he really does. He's not just he's not getting paid for doing it, for starters, and he does care. I know that.
Yeah, Paul is I can say one of the most passionate people about the industry. Definitely. Same as Dave Rowley. Martin Pouncey. They are people that care, and I think they're trying to make it do the right things, and they are trying to do what's best for the industry. But obviously, everything takes time.
Yeah.
You have the other option as well, is same as going back to financing. You can only do so much with a certain amount of financial income. They get their membership fees, the companies pay for their membership fees, and you try to keep everyone happy. And that's where it's difficult because they're paying, and they're paying for the information they get out of it, the support they get out of it. But that money only goes so far. So then, do you increase the costs? Then they want to see more out of it. Do you try and get more members in? Then how do you encourage them to come in? So there's a lot they're doing for the tilers. And I've seen the plans, been in the meetings, and there's a hell of a lot they're doing for the tilers. So not everyone's going to join. Would expect everyone to join.
Well, they're on Facebook if people want to follow them on Facebook. I know they're doing a lot more. They're in Tyler's community. They do a lot more on social media now, where they didn't in the past.
And I think it was not this year. Yeah, it was this year. So there's loads of fixers went to the awards as well.
Yeah.
There's a load of fixers at the awards. And Paul actually said to me at the end of it, he said, do you know what? I really like seeing the fixers there. And I can guarantee every fixer that went really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. I think they had a record amount of sponsors this year as well. And last year was a record amount of sponsors from like all the time before. So their engagement does work. And I know a few companies of Tyler's community went and joined the TTA and sponsored them that had never been a member before. So it's obviously through the engagement on the social media that they've gained them few people. Obviously, they've still got to have their benefits and show what they can offer that company. But so I think they're moving forward in a good way.
Yeah, definitely. So we're 2 hours 20 in, mate. So if you can just let people know. So this is like the Tyler's community special. So if you let people know where you're taking the group and where you want it to be, and then we'll wrap it up with that.
Yeah, you might have some editing to do.
It's all right.
So I don't want to release too much information and to be honest, I don't even know where it's heading in myself. There is more companies to go up on the cover photo, ones that have engaged. Where does it go? It's a good question. I mean, where do you take it next? Where would you like to see it? I've got ideas. I
think it's more than a Facebook group. It's difficult to say. I was making a lot of assumptions on the last podcast as to what it could be.
It could be a platform for other options.
Yeah, I think it could be a business, as in, I don't know what the right word is other than union. Union's definitely not the right word, but it's close to what I think it could be, where it's, I gave an example of if at the moment if someone's got an issue, they don't have any official support, they can contact your group, and which I think is probably the best possible place at the moment that anyone can get any support.
I know where you're going with this.
other than the manufacturer themselves, and some manufacturers are better than others, but as an impartial place to say, can somebody give me some advice? Because a lot of the time Tylers are on their own. I'm on my own. This is an issue that if it gets the wrong side of me could ruin me, because that can happen. One bathroom that has to be redone could literally ruin a small business, and they've got virtually nobody on their side apart from potentially a manufacturer. So the way I was seeing it is they could tap into the community or whatever it's called in the future. It's not necessarily even a Facebook group anymore at this stage. Somebody who works for that organisation or whatever it may be arranges for a member of the community who's close to that person, a member who's gone through however many approval state processes to say, yeah, this is an experienced person, they know what they're doing, they've done this interview or these tests or whatever, and they can go as an experienced expert and give an impartial opinion or report on whatever that particular problem that person's having has got. But all of that takes that it's not even a group at this stage. It's something else altogether.
It's more like an organisation.
Yeah, and you need to employ people to do all of that. At the moment, they can contact the group, and I'm sure there's loads of people who are willing to help. But it's not official. There's no official paperwork that probably wouldn't back you up in any kind of legal argument. So that's what I was saying to Alan. But I was making such assumptions that I said I better ask Sam if he wants to talk about it, because I'm just making shit up off the top of my head.
No. So, a quick one to cover it. I got advised by a very good source that people may take or try and attempt to take the page, copy it, or use it, and sort of obviously what we've built up as a group is good, and we want to protect that for a long time. It's here for the long term, way after I'm gone. I hope it's teaching new members in 70 years, 80 years, hopefully. So I got advised trademark the logo and the name for online support and education. So it was a Saturday night, random. So I text back and I said, "What do you mean?" And the message literally just said back to me, "I'm not going to name names. It's a good source in a good company." And it said, "Just remember, anyone can take what you've got now. People are watching." So I went and done it straight away. Trademarked it, set up a limited company, and people were quite happy. Anyone can search financial records. I'll probably post them on the page at the end of the financial year for the company, just to show it's not trading anything. It is basically, we have the limited company name and we've trademarked the logo. From the back of that, I know there's been suggestions before about setting up a Tylers union. So for the Tylers, which I think there's a place for one, representing the Tylers only. So, not manufacturers on it, just Tylers, supporting Tylers as a proper official legal union. I've got quite a few messages, phone calls, what's happening. Is the chats about a union true? And they're not. There's no... People have said to me, do it. People have asked me, would I do it? And at the moment, it's not an option. I think it's something that could be done. But as you say, it's something that involves finance. So it's something I think the page will always stay neutral. It's something that would have to put, say, somewhere else. As maybe part of the Tylers community, but as a separate entity. So it's somewhere else. But you can't do nothing with nothing.
Yeah.
At that level, just employing a solicitor for one court case, I can't pay for that.
Yeah, and that's when it becomes tricky, because you're running a group, and this is where all groups run into trouble. Money becomes involved, and money might be needed, but then it's so you'll definitely get people thinking this guy's on the take, which I don't really like that saying, because if somebody's doing some work, in every other walk of life, if somebody's doing something, and spending time on it, and they make money from it because that's their job now because they spend so much time on it. Nobody really asks how much money is this person getting out of this thing that they're doing, because they're doing something and it's making money and they're getting something out of it. But where it's tricky, if you wanted to do something separate to the group that's obviously got links to the group, and then it needed to provide an income for whether it's you or someone who manages it or someone who works in the admin side of things or the legal side of things or anything like that, it raises lots of questions about how much money are they making. And in my opinion, so what? If you're running something and it needs funding and people need to work for it, and that's their job, of course it needs to make money. And it's not someone on the take that's called doing a job and paying your bills.
I mean, at that level, and I've always been very clear with all the members from day one, if we was to do something like that, it needs money and it needs to subsidise a wage. There's no way you could be driving up and down the country for free. You couldn't afford to.
No, the way I envisaged it is so that those people who may be approved experts or whatever you want to call them, investigators, they get compensated for their time. So if somebody who covers, say, the northeast or wherever, a part of the country, and they're an approved investigator for whatever it may become, and they're going to help someone who's a member of Tyler's community or a member of whatever this thing may be that we're talking about, they need compensating for their time, and where's that money come from? Because they're not going to do it for free. And then the paperwork involved that needs it needs to legally stand up somewhere. That all needs doing by someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
so
and this is the problem with the group. So I've took it to a level where I think it's sort of steadied out. Where do you go further? How do you improve it in any way? And that was get the companies involved. The ones that are already engaging, what else can you give us? What can you do for us? Because otherwise it's stuck. So going to the union thing, you'd have to raise money. And with the page, where it is now, we're engaging these companies, building relations with them for more benefits for the members. But then I know what I'm like. In 12 months, it's going to reach a stage, and I think, how else can we improve this? How can we improve this? There's loads of ideas. Do we do Tyler's community training days? More basic courses. So, self-leveling. Or anything like that. Sort of wet rooms, stuff like that. So that was another thing and suggestion that was said to me. But how do I set that up without investment? So that's why I've never done anything like that. And maybe that's something in the future. We have to speak about how do we get the finance to do that.
Yeah.
So rather than do that, I've involved companies, and there's a few other companies that want to get involved that are already engaging on the page. Rather than doing Tyler community courses, what we're doing is we're using these companies. Ultra are going to provide training academy days. So we might get in Dural, for instance. They'll be involved on these days. So then all of a sudden you're using these companies who, let's be honest, we prop them up. They're only there because of us Tylers. Let's get something back out of them.
Yeah, and they're willing to do it as well. It's not like they don't just want your money. They're willing to do all these things. They're good companies.
And make them work for it.
Yeah.
It's I think we'll do another podcast on the future plans. There's so many ideas, and we might be there for another 2 hours.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Well, if people
there's
actually
lots.
Listen to it, so this might be just me and you talking into the ether. So if people actually listen to it and they want to give some feedback, what I'll do is there's a Facebook page for Don't Touch the Cat podcast, but I'll post the episode into Tyler's community if the admin allows me.
Definitely.
And then it gives people an opportunity to comment underneath, and they can say, we would like to see whatever in the future. Get someone on who can tell us about this. And if they want to complain about anything that we've talked about, it's Sam Hoffman Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
That's how you get older.
As I say, any learners, anyone that's not quite sure, they can message me anytime. They can call me if they want. Message me, WhatsApp me.
Well, what we'll do is this wasn't really a plan. The planned podcast with you, what I've been asking you for weeks for it. I like to get people's story because I think it's always interesting to get. I want everybody's story from the least experienced to the most experienced. Someone who works in finance, someone who works in a shop, a tiler, everybody within the industry. I want to speak to them and get their story. Someone from the TTA, wherever. So this was a special one just about the group because I knew it would go on for a while, and we agreed to do it. So if you come back and do one just about Sam Hoffman, forget about Tyler's community, and then
that'd be quite interesting.
Off the back of that one, we can do all the how to get.
I think going on to my personal story. Sorry. It's getting tired because it's like 12:30.
Yeah, we'll do the next one at a
reasonable time.
Yeah.
Once people hear my personal story, I think that the Tigers community, what it's about, how it works, everything like that.
Yeah. Why do you do it?
Yeah. Once they hear my personal story, when I come back on, which I will, it'll click, and they'll just fully understand it.
Okay.
Maybe we should have done that one first, then moved on.
No,
to
I
Tigers
don't think
community.
so because I think the group one's a good one because we talked about it anyway, and we're in the last podcast that I did. But it's also a good one to introduce this podcast to the group, your group.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all good.
I mean, hopefully you get some people on here, some education as well.
Yeah.
And
so what I've got already lined up is people who are very experienced, Tylers who haven't got much experience, because like I say, I'm not really interested in how experienced you are at doing the job. I'm trying to get people's story because that's where it's interesting. But I've also got people who run shops are going to talk to me. I've got a guy who runs a training centre who's going to talk to me. I'm trying to get hold of a lecturer that I know who does a tiling course at a college. So I'll try and get as many people on as possible. And if people see this or listen to this or see it on the group, if they've got suggestions of people that I should try and get hold of to speak to, I'll ring them and try and get them on here to speak, because I'm not really on here to speak to myself. I'm on here to get other people to tell either their story or what they offer, and it might not even have anything to do with tiling a lot of the time, but it's kind of related.
Perspectives from different levels,
yeah,
and different sides. What you've just suggested there.
Yeah, it's a big industry.
One day to get your interview as well.
Pardon?
It'd be interesting one day to get you on the other side.
No, not interesting. I'm not very interesting. Maybe.
I think it'd be quite good.
Yeah, maybe one day. Let's do a few first.
It's quite a good insight into, like, you listen to me about Tyler's community. You listen to someone about their shop.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to listen to everyone's outlook because, as Tyler's in the group, and this is no disrespect to Tyler's in the group, they go on and they see it from a Tyler's point of view.
Yeah, of course.
I see it from a Tyler's point of view, and I see it from a point of view. If I say yes to them, I'm going to have them got the ump. If I make that decision, someone's going to get upset because I can't please everyone.
Yeah, it's a big industry.
Companies' point of view.
There's a lot of people who work in the industry who've never touched tile. I was one of them for a long time.
There's a rumour going around it was me at one point.
What? Yeah. So, thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
That's right, no problem.
I had to wait all day for you.
I mean, if we'd started at 10 this morning,
it would have been a different conversation anyway, because I'm not very good in the mornings. It would have been totally different. Yeah, and everybody would have been awake. We don't have a studio. We're both in our own homes, so it would have been two madhouses trying to talk with kids in the background.
I mean, it's quite interesting, even just talking, because I don't ever remember going so long without a cigarette.
So yeah, that's good then. This is like a therapy as well.
Yeah, like a calming down.
What? So we can see each other. So I've got a vape. So this must have been driving
I
you
know.
crazy.
It was.
You'll have to get yourself a vape. Thanks, Sam.
That's right, no worries.
Thank you very much.
And,
Appreciate it.
I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tell mate.